All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of the Addictively Speaking podcast. I'm your host, James, and tonight I have a guest. His name is Joe Soel. He is the author of The Broken Mirror of Memory, Iraq, and Other Tales. He also has a story about addiction and recovery, and we're going to talk about the book, and we're going to talk about all kinds of things. So, Joel, pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to
And
be on.
tell
Thank you.
everybody, Joe, tell everybody about yourself and your story and your book, and just give us a brief introduction.
I went to Iraq in 2008, came home in 2009, and was pretty messed up with PTSD related issues. And I
Mm.
started drinking very heavily, um, like extremely heavily. And I didn't really get sober until I moved out to Washington. And even then, I wasn't clean. I was still on the what do the old timers call it in AA, the marijuana maintenance program.
Oh,
So I was on the marijuana maintenance program for a long time and just applied the tools I've learned from the Alcoholics Anonymous program to marijuana and have decided to get clean and off weed. And that was a few weeks ago, and it's been rough going. So if you're out there struggling, just know you're not the only one struggling, because I'm definitely struggling too. So
um, so you went to Iraq. That's
yeah,
got to be just, I mean, I imagine it's just, you can't even really comprehend what that's like to go into a place where there's war. And um, so you're struggling with PTSD. You've been
yeah.
diagnosed, you went to a doctor.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep.
Did they recommend any treatments or anything that you
They
could do?
therapy and medication is what they, you know, is what they recommended. So I'm following that advice, and it's been
Right.
going pretty good. Really, the most therapeutic thing that I did was write the book and get all the memories, all the stuff out of me, and get it down on paper, and just try to share it with the world, so that hopefully we can have less wars in the future. I think that would be a good thing. I'd like
Yeah.
that. So um, that's that's really one of the goals of the book, is kind of promoting peace, and it also talks a lot about the AA program, because
Hmm.
I was in AA while I was writing it. I'm still in AA, and I just joined Marijuana Anonymous because, and some people will chuckle at that, but that's okay. It's when you get up and you smoke first thing in the morning and you smoke all day, you kind of need a program. So
Yeah,
I created a
absolutely.
program for that, and I'm just working with a sponsor now and starting out on that journey. So that's been
So
new.
that's relatively new then.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Marijuana's Anonymous, yeah.
yeah. It's
Um,
real.
so with the drinking, so you drank, I imagine you drank prior to going to Iraq.
No,
Yeah, you didn't.
no,
You weren't a drinker
no,
before.
no.
Really? Oh
Yep.
wow. Okay.
I was against drinking. I
So
was against drugs. I was against all of it. When I came home from Iraq, I was so screwed up that I tried to drink the dead people back to life, and I tried to drink myself to death.
yeah,
And
wow.
the only thing that trying to drink the dead back to life is going to do is just drink you to death. So I had to stop.
Yeah, geez. That's got to be quite an overwhelming thing to have reoccurring in your memory is seeing the people, the dead people, and the carnage that war causes. Um, so you drank primarily to escape, to get those thoughts out of your head, to numb yourself away
Yeah,
from all that.
and be,
Yeah.
and because I thought that I deserve self abuse for surviving. Really, is
Right.
the big, is that I felt that I deserve some kind of self abuse. So um, there's a lot of self loathing, self hatred there that I'm dealing with through the program that you know I wouldn't really get elsewhere.
Do you think
But
it's like is it like survivor's guilt? Like, when
yeah,
people have something happen and, something happens like a car accident and everybody in the car dies except for that person. And it's like survivor's guilt. You feel guilty because you survived such a tremendous, tragic thing that you punish yourself every
yeah,
day because of
yeah.
it.
It
Yeah.
we Our base lost 10 soldiers while I was there, 3 in a rocket attack, 7 in a helicopter crash. And there was one attack where 3 of our soldiers were buried, and I helped look for them during an active rocket attack and tried to help dig them out, but I was pulled away. And because there were too many people you know, in the zone of impact, and there was
Yeah.
still income, so we didn't, we figured they were
Couldn't.
going to
Yeah.
target the same location again because they already had it dialed in. So I was pulled out of that, and there was a lot of fire, a lot of screaming, a lot of shit like that, and let my dog in here, and it really messed me up. So after that, I ended up volunteering for convoy duty. I think I was just looking for an adrenaline rush, and it wasn't something that was required for my job, but it's something that I did anyway. And after I got home and there was no more adrenaline to be had, I turned to drinking, turned to drugs, turned to all that stuff to try to maybe recreate that adrenaline. It was definitely, there's three things that a lot of veterans deal with, and 2 are pretty well known, and 1 is not. So 1 is survivor's guilt, 1 is post
Hmm.
traumatic stress disorder, and 1 is
Yeah.
moral injury. Um,
Okay.
Now, moral injury is you feel you violated your own code of ethics by doing something in the military, something in a war zone that you would be punished for doing in the civilian world.
Right. Okay.
So I have a bit of all 3,
Okay.
and so it's difficult to stay sober and clean, but it's something that I'm trying to do. And I think being on this podcast will motivate me to continue that process and go even further because I can get a lot of wisdom from you on that. So,
Yeah, and you can look for support. I mean, that's why I started this podcast, was so I could help other people find recovery, and work the program, and give people options to use in their recovery. I've had people on that talk about like mindful arts therapy and like, gratitude journals and things that you can use. I recommend going back and watching a couple of my other episodes and maybe getting some stuff that you can use for yourself. Um, that you can take with you, because everybody's recovery is different, and yours is quite, I mean, it's not unique, because I
yeah,
think a lot of people that come back from war have these issues. And I think in America it's really tough because they end up homeless, they end up, with all the, and they end up on drugs, they end up in the street. And people don't really, it's not publicized. You don't see a lot of it. Like, people aren't screaming about it as they should, because
yeah.
you were defending the country. You were, you know, and then they just kind of. Do you feel like you kind of get like hung out to dry after you get out, after you get discharged, and you have all this baggage that you now have to carry around?
I mean, I did feel like that. I think the
Mm,
VA has improved drastically
mm,
in their care over the past, 15 years, 16 years I've been home. And I've definitely gotten, built up a pretty good support network. So luckily, the homeless addiction suicide story didn't happen to me, but it's definitely happening to other people. So my experience with the VA went from bad to pretty good to honestly excellent with the care I'm receiving. That's not the case for everybody. I think it depends on who you
yeah.
get. I think it depends on what claims adjudicator you get. So it really does depend on who you're talking to at the time, especially for VA disability claims. So it can, it can vary from person to person who's actually examining your case. So, like, it took me 15 years to get to 100% when someone else may, apply and never get their benefits. Someone else may apply and get it the first time. It really just depends on who you get that's examining your case. So,
Really?
yeah.
That's interesting, because I don't really know how that system works, and like, the services they provide for you guys after you leave the military. Um, so that you have to go see somebody, and then they have to decide whether it's worth them investing the time and the money into you, or
Yeah, not for healthcare per se, but for
okay.
VA disability benefits. You have to see an examiner, and you see the doctor, and then after you see the doctor, someone who's never met you looks at what the doctor wrote and then decides what your rating should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So you could get denied a disability, just based on what somebody reads, what a doctor wrote down,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
and not actually know like your situation and your story and the struggles
Yeah.
that you're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
also,
then,
yeah, and it also is based upon the evidence you submit too. So you really have to have all your evidence, all your ducks in a row. But anyway, it's
okay.
they've definitely improved, in their care of me, um, over the years. So I really have no complaints, you know,
Well, that's
no
good.
complaints
That's
about
good.
VA.
Yeah, that they're taking care of you and they're helping you out on this journey because it's difficult. Like, you hear the stories all the time where, people don't get as lucky as you and then they end up homeless on drugs and the suicide and the PTSD and all that stuff really, you know, traumatizes people and wrecks their lives because they can't figure out how to get back to normal or some a semblance of normal.
Right.
Um,
And that's part of the reason why I wrote the book too, just to kind of get that story out into the general public so that, people are aware of veterans issues. I will say that I'm not making money off the book. It is selling right now at, at the cost of printing. So it's selling at printing cost right now. I'm not making any money off it. This is all sort of a volunteer thing for me just to put the story out into the world. So um, it's
uh,
it's
that's really cool.
I make enough
Just
money. This is just kind of my hobby to promote this book, and I really hope people might go out and check it out just because I think it'd be neat to have my story out there. I'd like to have it in the UK, for instance.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully this
I
will
always go
generate some
backwards when I
buzz.
gesture to someone on a podcast. I go, "Ugh."
Yeah. But I don't know what to do with my hands, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
I
what
don't
do
know
I do
what
with
to
my
do.
hands?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Yeah. Um, yeah, well, I mean, hopefully, now will people, with the podcast, the links will be posted so that people can check out your book and check out your story and yeah, hopefully it'll generate some good stuff for you and get your story out there and heard. Um, and with the video on the podcast so we get you seen and out there. Um so you were drinking quite heavy. How long of a period of time was that
I
from when you got
drank.
back?
I drank really heavy for 10 years, like extremely heavy. Like I
Mm,
was drinking, 5 Long Islands and, doing,
yeah,
7 shots. And
yeah, been
I
there,
mean,
been there.
it was really, really bad.
Yeah.
I could drink almost anyone under the table, puke, and keep drinking. I mean, it was bad. And
Wow.
I had $30,000 or $35,000 when I came back from Iraq. It got spent within like probably a year on just
Wow.
drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking. And you're not taking care of yourself, so you're eating a lot of takeout and you're just kind of spiraling into this darkness, really. And yeah, I didn't actually join the AA program until I got out here to Washington. But
Hmm.
it got so bad that I think I did damage to my liver in such a way that I could no longer drink like I used to, but I could
Hmm.
drink less and get drunk, if that makes any sense.
Right, your body, what is it? If you do some damage to it, it doesn't process alcohol at the same rate, so you end up
That's
getting
right.
drunk, don't you? Because your body can't get it out as fast as it used to,
Right.
or process it like it used to, so
Yeah.
you get
I
drunk
mean,
quicker.
yeah. I mean, that was just my experience. Everybody's body's different, but I just found um, that I could no longer handle the level at which I was drinking, but it was still a problem. I was still hungover constantly. I was still sick constantly, and um, you know, it was no longer fun. It was a compulsion. It was not something that was fun. So I went to the AA program right before COVID, actually. So,
Oh, okay.
and I've been good on drinking, but like I said, I was still on that marijuana maintenance program, and I definitely stayed on that until it was honestly, it was earlier this month when I realized, hey, weed is not, you know, I know, I know that I have a medical card for weed, but weed is not something that is serving you. It's a drug that's harming you. So you need to get
Hmm.
off that as well. Be clean and sober. So that's something that I'm working on. And it's going to be a process, just like recovery from alcohol is a process. Recovery from weed is also a process.
Oh gosh, pardon me.
It's okay.
Yeah, it is a it is a different thing because I don't know. I feel like alcohol and weed are two different things, and
Mhm.
they do two different things to the body and the mind. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess coming off of one isn't the same as coming off of the other.
Yeah.
And also, I imagine the weed didn't have the same effect as the alcohol did,
No.
as far as like that numbing. It just kind of like, well, I guess it does numb you, doesn't it? What does it do? It just takes you away.
Yeah, it just kind of takes you away. Really, for me, what it does is it causes a lot of paranoia.
Okay.
And it doesn't
Probably
matter
not
what
good.
kind of weed I smoke, it causes a lot of paranoia. And then I get back into my hyper alertness, PTSD sort of thinking, and I'm convinced something terrible is going to happen. I start panicking.
Yeah.
I start hyperventilating, things like that. And so I realized that it too was a problem and that I was an addict and that it had to be dealt with.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't seem like it was serving you any good purpose. I mean, some people like, like for anxiety and stuff like that, it helps calm people or relax people, and it does
yeah,
good things in cancer patients and stuff like that. It helps them eat, not be sick, and it does
yeah,
have benefit. Those things have benefits, but I think where, you're in a spot where it's not serving you in a way that it's giving you any relief. It's causing you more angst and anxiety and,
right, right. And it
really
was,
triggering you up.
right, and it got to a point where I was staying home and smoking all day every day, you know, showing up, stoned for things I had to do, things of that nature. So it was really better for me to just quit everything. And that's oddly enough, that's when I saw your podcast, addictively speaking. I'm like, hey, a podcast about recovery. What can a guy who's, like basically 2 weeks into actually being clean and actually being sober have to say to people who have been out there for 10 years? And I was like, oh no, I don't have a lot of time in this, so
I mean, it's not about time in and, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's about um, sharing your experience, telling your story, owning owning your shit, right? You're making the changes that you need to be making. So, you can offer people that are, 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door, uh, a perspective, because they haven't committed yet. They haven't jumped, they haven't done it, you know?
right.
So you have a perspective that's unique that you can provide. So that's always helpful. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's like when people talk about like relapsing and losing their sober time and stuff like that, but these things happen. People relapse. It's part of recovery. It's not always people don't always go, you know, 10, 12 years
Right.
and not have a hiccup. It
Right.
happens, We're
Yeah.
human. Things
People are
affect us.
people, and
Yeah.
really it's just about putting that trust in the higher power. I turned I turned alcohol over to the higher power. you know Shh, dog. He's a
Um,
Karen Terrier, and he's been on a lot of podcasts. He's pretty famous.
now is
But
he? Yeah, is he
yeah,
getting
yeah,
maybe
he's
he'll get
pretty.
his own podcast, and maybe he'll get his own podcast one day, you
And
know?
that would be awesome. We could have the Neelix the dog podcast. I don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
actually he'd be very talkative, but no one would understand what he's saying. No, it's
Yeah.
I had to turn I had to turn the marijuana over to the higher power too, and that's something that
Yeah.
my brain is still trying to negotiate. Like, oh, you can still try to do it, and see if you can control it and stuff like that, but I know that's just my thought process to try to justify, so I just have to turn it over,
Yeah, it's like the
just
same
kind of
thing
let
with
go and let
alcohol
God.
when you yeah, it's like the same thing with alcohol when you'd be like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I could just try moderating." Like, that's not
Hmm.
gonna work. You're not gonna I tried
Right.
moderating a lot of times
Yeah.
before I actually got sober, and it would work
Yeah.
once for one night.
Yeah.
Then the second night, my negotiation process is, well, I had 3 beers last time, so I'll have 5 beers this time. And then it
Hmm.
was, well, now I'm not gonna have any beer. I'm just gonna drink rum and cokes. I'll just have 2 or
Hmm.
3 rum and cokes. Then it was like, "Oh, maybe I'll just have 2 shots, and then I'll have 2 rum and cokes." And then before you know it, I'm back down the rabbit hole, and I'm like, "You know what? Fuck it. All bets are off. Let's go balls to the
Right.
wall," you know? And that's how you
Right.
end up. That's how you end up right
Yeah.
back at square one.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's okay to have hiccups, but when you do, and then you start going down that path and you go, "Oh, you know, I can drink like a normal person, or I can use like a normal person," and you go down that hole, you're like, "Oh, right. I actually couldn't do that."
Yeah,
And,
I'm actually not a normal person.
yeah, what I
I'm a
thought was
drinker.
my bottom is not the bottom, and you can
Yeah,
actually go
yeah,
farther,
yeah.
you know?
So, um, where when you came back from Iraq, where were you living?
Uh,
Where did you go back to?
I lived in Rochester, New York, so I got back from the
Okay.
desert in January, and
Mhm.
you can imagine going from 120 degrees in the sun to negative 20 in
Freezing
the
cold.
cold.
Yeah.
That's yeah, that's what I yeah. I had a thrift store coat that I bought that was really long and really warm, but it didn't help. I was so acclimated to the desert that I I mean, I couldn't believe how cold I was,
It probably took months
grew up in that
to get
area.
back. Yeah.
And I was so taken aback by it that I was like, "Oh, freezing," you know?
So when you were drinking, were you with other people? Did you drink with, like, a group of people? Uh,
I went to a lot of bars, so, you
just
have your
solo by yourself?
yeah, solo, and I'd go there and I'd get wasted and you know, and I'd tell anyone that would listen about, you know, stuff that
What
happened
happened?
and, you
Yeah.
know, and some people cared, some people didn't. But
Yeah.
nobody cared enough who was in the drinking scene to say, "Hey, you're actually doing damage to yourself."
Yeah, that's what was gonna be my next question.
Yeah,
Like, the
yeah,
people that were around you, or was there was nobody that was saying like, "Hey, man,
yeah.
you might wanna,
No,
seek some
no.
help, or you might wanna get, uh, get looked at."
Not in the bar scene, no. No.
No. Did you have any friends or family that you were, around, or that you were in contact with that saw the way your behaviors were and raised any red
I had
flags or
some
said anything to you?
yeah, I had some friends at the coffee shop that I went to that were like, "Yeah, you should really get into an AA meeting," but I was so angry. I was so against God at that time. I was so against spirituality. I was an angry, angry person, just, resentful and angry and just I wasn't having any part of a program that involved a god. That was, I mean, that was just ridiculous. So I kind of used that as an excuse to shut it off. But um, yeah, I was not having any of that stuff at that point.
What made you leave New York and move out to Seattle?
We needed a change. Me and my fiance, we needed a change. We wanted to get away from the winter, and
Hmm.
you know, really, it only rains out here, so it is quite the improvement from 6 foot of snow to a bit of drizzle is quite the improvement.
Hmm.
So we'll take it. And initially, we went out here to get into the weed business. Actually, we wanted to get a license to grow weed and all that stuff because they had just
Okay.
legalized it. So really, we drove out there for weed. Yeah, and it
Wow.
shows you how much control weed had over my life. You know,
Yeah. Making
yeah,
decisions based on marijuana and where it
right,
was and
right,
what you were gonna do.
Yeah, I will
Um,
say it was still the best decision of my life. I mean, there are benefits out here, there are things out here, there are people out here that I've met, things I've done, things I've experienced. The way my life has gone, I would still move out here. It just wouldn't be for weed.
so how long after you moved there did you decide that you were going to try sobriety from alcohol?
That would have been another 6 years of drinking. So that would have been from
Wow.
2014 to 2019. So,
And you've had a fiance this whole time, or
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We met
really?
in 2009, and we've been together ever since 2009. So,
Did she ever want you to get help?
yeah, and I didn't do it. That
Did it
was,
cause did it cause friction in your relationship
a
because
little bit.
you
Yeah,
refused? Yeah.
yeah, quite a bit. But we got through it, and I'm lucky in that. You know, in that aspect. Again, there's just there's so many blessings and so much luck. You know, it's hard to chalk it up to one or the other, but
Yeah.
I'm lucky I survived. I'm lucky I wasn't killed. I'm lucky that I got home. I'm lucky that I didn't kill myself with drinking. I'm lucky that I didn't kill myself driving drunk. There's just there's so many things. You know, I'm more lucky I didn't hurt
Yeah.
anybody else.
Yeah. That's what I always think. Like, I'm really grateful that I never, like, hurt somebody in a car accident or, had a terrible, like, drinking driving accident. Like, I'm lucky that I
Hmm.
never did that. I
Yeah,
did get like a DUI and I did, you know, end up smashing up my car a couple times, but it was just me in the car. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, luckily enough, I never that happened.
yeah,
But that's the thing, like you just never know. You just never know, especially when
yeah,
you're out drinking like that.
yeah. I
Anything
don't
could
know. I don't know
happen.
how I avoided a DUI. I really don't. I I have no idea. I just have no idea how I did it, but I did it. So, and now I'm focusing on just accepting the powerlessness part, you know,
Mm,
and just working through the first three steps through the Marijuana Anonymous program. Um, and I'd encourage anyone listening who does have a problem with marijuana. I mean that program is there. They have meetings. They're just like AA, but they just focus on marijuana, and they can help you, and they will help you. They'll be happy to help you. So I'd encourage anyone to check that out, especially if you feel like Narcotics Anonymous isn't for you. I mean, it's definitely for some folks, but um, it definitely wasn't for me. So
mm,
um, I kind of feel like I needed something tailored to marijuana. So
right. Um, were you hesitant when you got involved in AA when you first stopped drinking?
no, because I met my then sponsor, and we were good friends for a long time. He since
Hmm.
moved away, but it was time, and he told me it was time, and he'd already been in the program for like 10 years, so it was time, and so I wasn't hesitant at all at that point. I was just done doing it, done being sick, things of that nature.
What are some of the benefits you found in your recovery so far?
Definitely having God in my life is something that's really been a blessing. Just having a higher power to rely on. Um, Having the fellowship of AA has been great. Um, and just really getting healthier and improving every day, and then realizing that, hey, you have to apply this to other drugs too. It's really been a process, but it's been a long process that, like, hey, you can't just not drink. You have to work the program, and you can't just you know be on the marijuana maintenance program. You have to go clean and sober to do it. And that's it started with AA, but it didn't end there. So it's guided me on a process that's taken me to a better place, I think.
Now, with your PTSD, uh, medication and therapy, do you do
Mhm.
that regularly? Like, I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
obviously I imagine the medication is
yeah,
daily type
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. The medication is daily. The therapy is weekly.
Yeah.
So
So you have quite a good routine going.
yeah, yeah. And thankfully, it's covered by the VA, so that's good. So
Hmm.
it's all set.
Will you have to be in therapy for the rest of your life?
Hmm. I think that I don't think that I would choose to say have to be. I would say that I get to be,
Okay.
and um,
Cool.
that
Yeah.
would, and that's not a dig on you. It's something that
No,
popped into
yeah.
my head because it's like how much you pay per session. If you're doing it out of pocket, it's probably 250.
Hmm.
You know, for me, it's covered by the Veterans Administration, but so I get to have that, and
Yeah.
uh, because of that, I think that I'll probably never stop improving.
Yeah, and I imagine it's just a good, healthy way to process all of the stuff that you're going through in your life anyway, and helps you, yeah, like when things get hard or if you're finding things difficult, in your recovery, having the therapy on top of it is always
Yeah,
a bonus because, you know, you can put those two together, and really, boost your recovery.
yeah, yeah, and really, what I'm trying to get into, you know, well, it was my therapist who brought up, the MA program
Hmm.
and the and the issue with my marijuana use. So it, you know, therapy was what led me to get clean, and start that process. So, and it's just like with alcohol, it's been a process. So if you're out there and you're still in the middle of that process, it's okay. You can, just keep going to meetings, just keep coming back.
It's consistency, isn't it? It's continuing to be consistent in your recovery and putting it, you know, ahead of it. It's priority. You have to, I guess for the 12 step, you got to work the steps. You have to do the program. And I imagine that's the same with MA. Got to
Yeah.
work the steps. You got to do the program. Um, what is it like, MA? Is it similar to AA? Like,
It's very
what are
similar.
some of the things? Yeah.
It has the same 12 steps, the basic same 12 traditions. It just focuses on marijuana. And there's a lot of, you know, it mentions in their big book, which is, it's called, I just got it. It's called Life with Hope, um,
Hmm.
or Living with Hope. Yeah. And, it's basically their big book, right? And it says in there, there's so many people who say, that, you can't be addicted to marijuana. There's no sort of, addictive properties. There's no withdrawal symptoms, something like that. And then they have all the people in the back, just like with the big book, who say, no, this is actually my story. And that's not the case. And here's
Hmm.
why. And it even has it, it even has a doctor's opinion in the beginning of the book where, yeah, there are some people who can use it normally and there are people who cannot use it normally. And it really all just kind of depends.
Yeah. I mean, I have a weird view with marijuana because when I drank, I smoked weed.
Mhm.
I did it, you know, but it was one of those things that I could smoke tomorrow and I could never smoke again. It
Mm.
doesn't bother me either way, you know? And it's really weird because I find that strange because I have this, over the top, like, I can't moderate things, but weed was never one of those things that kind of like did anything. I mean, it like, it did what it was meant to do, but like I
Mhm.
didn't wake up the next day and think, I'd like to do that again."
Yeah.
But with alcohol, I kind of just was like full tilt.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like getting sober and stuff, I find that like that part of my personality transfers to other things like the over the top stuff. Like when I got sober, I started running a lot, going to the gym, like over the top, like too much. I do it with food. I overeat. I get compulsive things about these things. But like weed, never,
Yeah.
never, not one of those things for me. So that's why I
Me.
kind of have like this weird thing with it. And then when I hear people like, telling you like you having telling your story, I think, wow, some people probably do. They must suffer with it. There must be people that, just can't manage it, or it becomes something that takes over their life. And
Yeah.
it's unhealthy.
And like I want to, you know, I want to smoke right now.
Yeah.
Just I want to do it right now. And if I do, I won't be able to leave the house. I won't be able to get into a decent gym routine. I won't be able to go, over to the Zen Center and do my meditation. I won't be able to do anything because,
Yeah.
I've gotten into a stone driving accident before. Luckily, it took too long for the police to show up, and it took hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and that was probably, that was, I mean, hell, that was 15 years ago or more. So we just exchanged insurance
Yeah.
information and left. But it was, it's like I wanna I want to do it right now, and I won't be at peace until I smoke or I talk to my higher power. It's like it's an irresistible urge, and I can't control
Mm.
it.
Yeah. It becomes
So,
compulsion. It becomes
you know,
something
it's
in your
just like,
something in,
yeah, it's just like, just don't take that first drink, just don't take that first hit kind of thing.
yeah,
You know.
because it can get out of control real quick.
Yeah.
Um, so how long did it take you to write the book?
The book took me 10 years to write, and then another few years to edit and then send to an editor and get it perfected. Um,
Okay.
and it has a lot of poetry in there about addiction. It has a lot of stories about. So I actually, in part of the book, I actually placed the hero Odysseus, from the Greek, legends, Iliad and the Odyssey.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
placed
Hmm.
an infantry unit serving in Iraq, and I, I bring him home to Ithaca, New York, instead of Ithaca, Greece, which is where he's from
Hmm.
in the legend. I send him home to Ithaca, New York, where he becomes a homeless drunk and has to go into the AA program. And I wrote that when I first started going to AA meetings, and I added that in there, and it was really cool to write. And that's just a little section of the book, but it was pretty cool. It was pretty fun to write. So
Did you have any writing experience before taking this
no,
on, like, or deciding that
I
you
was
wanted to write it?
yep. I just knew that I wanted to write it, and I knew that I wanted to share the story.
Hmm.
But I didn't, I hadn't written a book before. Obviously, I'd written in school and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
I hadn't. It's not like I had, like a creative writing master's or something. So it was definitely a process. I ended up getting um, a degree in writing from the Evergreen State College out here in the Olympia area,
Okay.
and um, after that, I finished it. I started it while I was in the writing program and just used the writing program as a base to kind of, shoot that up. So,
That's awesome. I mean, I think that's really cool. Like, I've had a couple authors on now. Um, so I just think it's really neat to like how you guys just, some of them like wrote their whole life since, but it is, it's just like, how cool is it that you got to write your story? You got to write
yeah,
your own version of what happened, your
yeah,
version of it that, to tell people. I think that's really cool. And I think it's a really neat thing that you did that, um, hopefully it helps people, inspires people. It changes the way people view veterans that have been to war and stuff like that. And it gives them, a different view and perspective on that.
yeah. I certainly I certainly hope so. I'll show your viewers what it looks like. It's The Broken
There we
Mirror of
go.
Memory. It's available on Amazon, and yeah, it, it's my life's work, and right now it's selling at cost. So I'd encourage anyone to pick it up, and just check it out. You might get something out of it. It may be, a great. And it makes a wonderful fire starter in the wintertime too. You can just slide it in there. You know, it lights right up.
Okay.
So think of the utility as well.
Right, right,
Not
right.
just
It's it's not just for reading, guys. You can,
right, right.
if you ever get trapped, you could burn it.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
There's so many uses for it, but
Right,
I would
right.
definitely
It
recommend
can
read
help you
before.
prop up a table. It can prop up a table, you can use it
Yeah, yeah,
to level
yeah.
out a table.
You could use it to level out a chair. I mean, there's so many uses for
Yeah.
it. But
Use it. I mean, you could read it. You could read it.
yeah,
That's probably the
you
thing
certainly
that we
could.
should be pushing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Give it a
I would
read.
give it a read first, and then
Give it
use
a
it
read.
for what you want to. Buy it and leave it on a bus. Just
There you
uh,
go. Buy it for all your relatives at Christmas and
right,
just
right,
give it to everybody in your family.
right. That's a great idea.
Right?
It would make a great
Nice.
Christmas gift.
Yeah.
It's time. It would make a great Hanukkah gift. You know,
Yeah. Birthday gift,
birthdays,
anniversary
whatever.
present, whatever.
Festivus.
Yeah, yeah. Give it to anybody. Give it to
Yeah,
everybody. Um,
yeah.
is this going to be the only book you write? Are you gonna take another turn and write another book or?
I'm working on another one right now. It's a novel dealing with theology because I'm actually going to. I'm looking into master's divinity programs right now to try to
Okay.
become a pastor. So I'm looking into master divinity programs, and I'm writing a book about theology. It's based upon Dostoevsky's The Underground Man. Really good read. After you grab The Broken Mirror of Memory, definitely pick up The Underground Man. It's a really interesting book, but I'm basing it off of that sort of template, and it's going to be a philosophy, theology, and my work as a hospital chaplain. So it's uh, it's going to be a pretty cool read, I think, once I get it out. And I don't have a good title for it. It's just called Novel One on my desktop. So it's you know it's going to be interesting to
That's,
see what it becomes because
yeah, you
when I
can,
started writing this one, I had no idea what it would become.
yeah. That's really cool though. I mean, you did it. You wrote a book. You wrote a
Yeah,
book, man.
I did it. I
That's
wrote a
super
book.
cool. And you
Now,
got
if just
sober.
someone would buy it, yeah,
Yeah.
I got sober and I
You,
wrote a book. Now,
you got sober.
now if someone would just buy it, that would be great.
Well, the links will be attached to this video and we'll promote it and hopefully, people will buy it,
Yeah,
and you get some exposure, get
yeah,
to
that'd
share
be
your
cool.
story. Um, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up the episode? Is there anything you got
Uh,
coming up or is there anything you're doing in the future? Let the listeners
no,
know.
no, I would say follow my YouTube channel War Dove. That's
Okay.
at War Dove for Peace on X. You can follow me on X at Joe Soel 2, JoeSoel 2. Yes, I do have the other Joe Soul account as well, but I don't have the login for it anymore. So I was like, so now I have to be number two. So, but and yeah, and check out the Word of YouTube channel. I actually do my own podcast over there, and I'd love to have more subs and just kind of see where that project goes.
Nice. Okay, cool. So before I end my episodes, I always like to ask my guests, and if they are in recovery, usually, what are three things that you need in your recovery? What are three things like, some people have journaling or gratitude journals or like yoga or Pilates, whatever, like these things. Like I personally, I like to run and go to the gym and do physical activity. What are three things that you need?
I need writing, I need the gym, and I need to take long walks with my dog. You know, that's
Nice.
that's I mean, that's what I need. I need to not isolate myself. If you want a fourth thing, is I need to not isolate myself, because for me, isolation leads to using. So
Yeah. Be out more, be around people.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for talking about the book. Um, you know, keep us updated. Let me know how the novel's going. Let me know how the MA is going. I want to
yeah,
know how you're doing in your recovery, man. So keep
yeah.
in touch, and thank you for
I
coming
will.
on.
Yeah, it's been my true honor. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to collaborating with you in the future. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem.